Hey everybody, it's Richard from Dicking About, and it's a very special video this week. And you may have, well, you've almost certainly seen, I've got a fabulous new fat bike. And one of the things that I had to do, I had to choose some forks for my fat bike. And because it's a dream build, I thought, what could I possibly get? And what I settled on were these unusual, magnificent forks called Wren. And they're inverted forks, and they've come, and I've had the first couple of rides on them. I'm super impressed. I'm kind of learning how to set them up, and I wanted to find out more about the business. And I thought, why not go to the very top? And the very top is Kevin Wren, who has very graciously agreed to be on a Zoom call with me. So everybody, welcome Kevin. Hello.
Hi, Richard. Thank you very much for the invitation. I have a bit of a cold, so I apologize for the vocals.
I'm pretty sure I can't get it over Zoom, so we're okay. So
yeah, and I can never get rid of that New Jersey accent.
So Kevin, where are you based?
I'm located just outside of Sacramento, California, probably about 30 minutes from the Sierra foothills. So heading into Lake Tahoe. Beautiful, beautiful place.
Can I take you all the way back? And you're a guy who's got this company selling this innovative product. Has it always been mountain biking? What's your background?
Geez. I actually studied to be a priest, and when I came out of, yeah, of course, the sales.
Well, obviously, who doesn't? Yeah.
Right. And so, when I came out of the seminary, I didn't know what I was going to do, and I took a job selling office supplies door to door, and I came upon a customer, and one thing led to another. And the next thing I know, I'm being offered a job. I wasn't looking for a job, and turned out I was talking to Yoshi Shimano.
Wow.
I didn't know what Shimano was. They were a customer. They were a good customer. And
you were selling office supplies too?
Yes, sir. Yeah. and so, it was a lesson for me that you never know where your life is going to take you. And they offered me less money than what I was making, but I just had this feeling. And I said, so what do you do? And he said, make fishing tackle and bike parts. And I said, I love to fish. Here I am 40 years later in the bike business. And I got very lucky. I mean, to work directly for Yoshi, I was there for a little over 6 years and headed up sales in North America. And you couldn't get a better education in terms of how to manage a business. The level of involvement that someone at Yoshi's level would get into in a sales meeting, for me, I was like a sponge.
Yeah.
And then you turned me loose on a trip to Japan, and I had never seen product get made before. And to watch raw material come into a factory, a big machine smash it and turn it into a finished product was very impressive to me. And so without any background in that, I learned the difference between a casting and a forging and extrusion, and more importantly, what the costs of those were. I loved the business aspect of things, and I got lucky that bicycles was where they put me, and I did well, and I enjoyed it, and I learned about business, and I learned about manufacturing.
I think if I could just interrupt for a second, I think you say you got lucky. I think what often happens from people I know who are successful or whatever else is, no, you got lucky. You had an opportunity. I think many other people wouldn't have seized that opportunity and embraced it. I'm sure there are guys who would have been offered the job with less money who wouldn't have taken it for whatever reason. Right. So I think maybe
it was interesting to me also, Richard, that I grew up in an area of New Jersey that was extremely prejudiced. Forget about black and white. We had white people who hated white people. The Polish hated the Italians. We had those kind of neighborhoods. And so for me to be exposed to a different culture, it opened my eyes. And I am extremely grateful for that, even more so than the business.
What era was this, Kevin? Sorry.
That was 1980.
Okay.
1980. And Shimano was based in New Jersey, and they opened an office in California, and my wife at the time refused to move. And so I wound up working for Union Frondenberg, a German company that specialized in pedals and spokes, galvanized spokes. And we wound up doing some interesting things with them. We licensed the Hugie hub.
Okay, wow.
We had the Hugie hub for a number of years and then sold that to DT Swiss, which, by the way, the patent just recently expired on the ratchet mechanism.
And hang on. You heard it here first.
yes, you did hear it there first. And, having the background of having worked directly with Willie and seeing the success that DT Swiss has had with the hub, we are going to come out with our own version of it.
Wow, okay.
We found a little niche with fat bikes. We found a further little niche with suspension for fat bikes. And then we further refined that with extreme cold weather performance. And so we have found that by focusing, we're able to deliver a quality product that is targeted at the user.
Yes.
So, from Union Frondenberg, I went on to Cannondale, and I was hired there to be the CODA director. And we did the project with Magic Motorcycles for the Machine crankset. And we worked with the Volvo Cannondale racing team, where I worked with people like my current sponsored rider, Tinker Juarez, Missy Gio, Miles Rockwell,
wow.
Allison Sidor. And so for a young guy to have that opportunity to work directly with those racers, and their major mechanic was a guy named Steve Gravenitis, and to be able to work through him with these riders was a fabulous experience, because I will never put the kind of torque on a product that these people will. And some of them were great to work with. Some of them were a pain in the ass.
But you were right there. You were right there on the shop floor, for one of a better experience, getting immediate feedback. You were like the guy in the Formula One team when the driver's talking directly to you, saying, "This is how it feels. I'd want it to do this. I don't like it doing this." You were absorbing that, I guess.
Well, and I was lucky. We had a couple of engineers that were assigned specifically to the CODA project, and so on the technical, the real nitty gritty of the details, you could rely on people that had that education. What I could do was look at, okay, how are we going to make that? Where are we going to make that? How does that impact our costing? And so the CODA experience was great. I learned a lot about marketing. The last big position I had was at Wren Sports. I was the vice president of marketing and product development for everything but the helmets. I had nothing to do with the helmets. And so it was a smaller piece of the business, but we had the Blackburn brand, Road Gear brand, Vistalite brand. And that really opened me up to sourcing in Asia, where we would go on 3-week trips and we would hit 3 factories a day. And that was a fabulous experience. You also had volume. So you were working from a power base where,
yes.
If we moved product from one factory to another factory, it was a significant loss for the one. It was a significant gain for the other. And
presumably from your time with Shimano, you knew what to look for. It's a bizarre coincidence. At university, I did my dissertation on Toyota and their manufacturing process, part of my marketing degree. And at that time, it was sort of early 90s, but it was all about this Toyota introduced this just in time, and how they it sort of really opened my eyes, because they had this. You talk about the management involvement, and they had this suggestion box where genuinely anyone on the shop floor of the manufacturing process would. Every day they'd have dozens of suggestions of some guy saying, "Hey, look, the lines on the floor telling everyone where to go are 8 inches wide. If we make them 7 inches wide, look how much paint we'll save." And every employee's contribution to how the factory could run better or more efficiently, not just cheaper, was embraced, and I've always had a fascination for that side of the manufacturing where quality
Yeah,
above all
it's
else.
interesting. My experience with Shimano was more on the sales side. And while you would go through the factory, if you came over and visited, we would walk you through the factory and you would see cold forging and those kind of processes. To be perfectly honest, the way Shimano was growing in those days, I could have been a dog and you could put a sign around my neck that said coaster brakes $3.10. Dog would come out with an order,
Yeah.
and so I am grateful. They gave me opportunities to sell to large corporations. They gave me the freedom to go out there and work with the purchasing people and the marketing people, and basically build a confidence in yourself that really wasn't justified. The power of the company was so strong, and the demand for, in those days, you couldn't give away a dealer level product. It was Suntour, Hure, Campagnolo, Simplex.
Yeah.
We sold coaster brakes, 3-speed hubs, and positron derailleurs, which was the original click, click, click index shifting. And I will say this, Shimano is amazing. If you look at how companies are structured, typically they come out with a high performance product and that filters down. Shimano worked their way up from a single speed freewheel to coaster brakes, 3-speed hubs, and slowly but surely they put out of business Bendix coaster brakes. They put out of business Sturmey Archer 3-speed hubs. They just dominated. And for them to have the foresight in 1980, I'm going to say 4, we were testing electronic shifters. And
Okay.
as we would ride around the neighborhood, garage doors would go up. So, I mean, that stuff never hit the market. But
is that when your career in petty burglary started? You could just ride around the neighborhood opening everyone's garage.
Open garage door. Well, that looks good. No, and it's interesting because all of the index shifting was done at a mass market level, where we sold this stuff into Kmart, Walmart, Toys R Us, and sold hundreds of thousands of units.
Yeah.
Some of the lessons that you learn, from Yoshi was, before you sell anything, you sell yourself.
Yeah.
And you show up when you say you're going to show up. And for the most part, you shut up and you listen, because everybody has problems. They want to share their problems, and you can either help them or you can tell them the truth where you can, and don't waste anybody's time, And so, you look at that and you look at, your experiences growing up, the things that your mother said to you, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And that's all blended into where we are today. We put out really good products. I believe it's great value in whatever product you buy from us. If you search about Wren, because we don't do any advertising, customer service is one of the strongest points that we have. And I'm very fortunate that when I started the business 7 years ago, my good friend Russ Johnson, who I met at Shimano in 1980,
Okay.
had semi-retired, and I talked him into moving to California for a couple of years, helping me get the business started. And we got the business rolling. He now moved back to New Jersey, which is crazy. California sunshine, picking fruits in January. He's going to shovel snow. But, I love the guy, and I'm very lucky to have him as a partner, because he handles all of our customer service worldwide. We now have about 11 distributors around the world, and he trains them in the product. Primarily, the fork is the most complex. And as simple as it is, he does a training session, and they stock all of our service parts. So if you have an issue and you're in a different country, chances are you'll have that product in 24 hours.
I think I'd like to go back to sort of why the forks and why that company. So
okay, so I reached out to some friends in Taiwan, which is where the bulk of my relationships were formed. to factory owners, people who 35 years ago when I was at Cannondale gave them their first OEM spec.
Yeah.
And did a Coda brake, for example, with Leo from Tektro. And, so that relationship is very, very strong. From Blackburn, we work with a company called Beto, Beto, and they are the largest manufacturer of air pumps anywhere in the world.
Wow, okay.
Became very good friends with the owner, Lopin. And that man has more patents than anybody I've ever known. And if you research Lopin Wang, you'll just see patent after patent after patent. And so when I approached these guys about starting a business, the reception was good. I was able to get some favorable terms in terms of payment. When we wanted to create a new product, I was able to amortize my tooling. So if you're going to spend $15,000 on a piece of mold, I could spend $10,000 or $10 per piece. Add it to my price. We have a local airport. I apologize. But we started the business. I grabbed whatever my friends were willing to give me. So we did car racks, we did air pumps, we did the suspension fork. A friend of mine was making this thing, and he was selling it to 4 or 5 people here in the US and 1 or 2 people in Europe. And we had 50 forks, and out of the 50 forks, we had 48 problems. And his solution to that was, here, I'll replace the fork. And I said, no, now I'm going to have a customer who's pissed off twice. First fork, and I'm going to send them the same thing. Here's what you need to do to fix it. And having that conversation, we went down the path of, there's a lot more you can do to improve this fork, but I'll be damned if I'm going to give you that information and you're going to sell it to 5 people here in the States. And so we asked him what his total sales were for the previous year in terms of units. And we had just gotten some investment money. One of our investors is Kozo Shimano, the son of Yoshi, who we worked for. And so we had gotten this income of cash, and I made him an offer. I'll give you a purchase order for 100% of what you sold to everybody last year if you make these changes. And so we have made substantial changes to the fork. We continue to make changes continuously. When we first got the program running, we found that a lot of our customers were extreme cold weather users, people in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Alaska. We had people call us from Finland, Norway, people who use a product in an extreme environment and nothing was working, including our fork. It would freeze up once you got a little bit below freezing. And so we developed an extreme winter damper, and our fork is very easy to service. You can do it yourself. You open it up, take out the damper. It's a sealed unit. You put in the new winter damper. And we recommend using a little bit different grease if you're going to use it in the kind of temperatures minus 30. And while we were doing that, we tried to develop a damper that would allow us to have the product work in the most extreme 110, 115 temperatures down to minus 30. And that is the damper that we now supply with the fork. So our fork comes with an extreme or all year round damper. And excuse me, I'm very proud of that because, it's nice to sell a fork and it's really nice to sell an extra damper. We make money, but I would rather sell you the right product from day one and not have to go back and fix something or upgrade something. And it's the right way to treat people. You want to do business the way you want to be treated. So we're fortunate. I mentioned that Russ handles our service worldwide. We don't have a lot of service issues. There's a understanding of the twin air system that needs to be learned. It is different. We ship a fork to a dealer and I say, let me explain the twin air. He goes, no, I've set up forks all my life, blah, blah, blah. And, sure enough, he's the guy that calls you back and says, I can't get this thing set up. Did you read the instructions? No. And it is different. It is extremely unique, but is the most simple system you will ever have. You can go to any trail and take your shock pump, and based on the conditions, you can adjust where that floating piston is to either give you a faster response or to give your compression a more significant ramp up. So you're using your travel more prodigiously.
Well, one of the sort of compliments to you or the things about the product is my first thought was, if you were a racer or a pro rider and you go and you set up your suspension and you go to a race or you go to an event and you have a practice lap, or, you could literally trailside, as you were just sort of saying, you could have a shock pump with you and think, whoa, this is a much more intense course than I thought. I need the fork to be more progressive. I'm going to add some more air at the bottom. Or actually, there aren't the big hits I thought there were going to be, but actually it's a lot of small baby head stones. I want it to be a more
roots and rocks.
You add some more at the top, if I'm saying that right.
That's true, Richard. And to that, where our competition, if you want to make that kind of a change, it's done with a clip, an insert. So you have to open your fork up to do that. With ours, your pump is different than my pump. So I can't tell you to put in 15 strokes. But when you know your fork and you understand the twin air system, you'll know that I can put in a half a stroke, right? And you're not moving it 10 millimeters like the clip.
Yeah.
You may move it 1.5 millimeters, or you may decide you want to move it 12.5 millimeters. You can get that feel. The other thing I would say to you as a new user is never fear to play with it, because all you got to do is dump the air out of both chambers, right? And you go back to zero. The floating piston drops to the bottom. And it's almost like a normal fork in the sense that if you leave it at the bottom and you put in all your air in the upper section, forget about PSI.
Yeah.
And you get 20% sag.
Yeah.
Your piston is still at the bottom. Now what you can do is by adding air to the bottom, you can make that adjustment, pushing the piston up. And so if you can envision two chambers where the piston is down towards the bottom, you have a big chamber of air trying to compress a small chamber of air. Very difficult to do, right? Because you've got all this volume and it can move versus the small volume. And that's where having more air in the upper chamber and less in the bottom is going to give you your most progressive ramp up. If you see that you get to a trail and there's a lot of baby heads, you might want to put 5-6 shots in the bottom, move that piston up a bit. Now you have a smaller chamber of air compressing a larger chamber of air, and it's easier for that piston to move. So your response is going to be faster.
Okay.
And you may also notice with your fork that because all of our weight is up in the crown and the upper tubes, as opposed to all of the standard forks where all your weight is at the bottom, it takes a bigger hit to move a standard fork than it does the inverted fork. And over time, you'll notice, that you're not going to have to replace your oil because it is a sealed system. Nothing gets into it. No air, no dirt, nothing. We don't have seals on our fork.
Okay.
What you have on the bottom of your fork is a wiper. And all that is doing is trying to move the crap away from going inside. Should it go inside, your oil damper is sealed. There's absolutely nothing that will foul your damper. And so people will call up and say, hey, I've got 400 hours on the fork. I want to change the oil. How's it performing? It's really based on performance.
Right.
Depending, again, on your use, and I'm assuming in the UK it's a little wetter than it is here. Bushings, right? That would be an item that you might want to replace on an annual basis. But if you look at our pricing on all of our small parts, we basically sell it for a cost. I don't need to make money on a service part. I'm delighted that you've used the product enough that you need to replace a bushing. We offer a 2-year warranty. If you call me up and say, Kevin, I've got a problem with the fork, you'll never hear me say, well, what year did you buy the fork? What's your serial number? I'm not looking that up, right? If there's an issue and the fork should be functioning, I will warranty that. So even though I have a 2-year warranty, you know,
Yeah.
I'd rather make you happy. You know, you mentioned social media earlier, and social media is a very scary world for someone as small as we are. It takes one bad review, and the next thing you know, everybody jumps on it and goes, "Oh yeah, I've got that same experience." And I try not to get involved in that. You cannot. And there are people that you will never make happy no matter what you do.
I think part of the risk, forgive me for interrupting, is
No,
I use social media, and it really is a means to an end. You know, getting my product is my videos, and hopefully people enjoy watching me dick about with stuff. You know, and
you're great, by the
you know,
way.
I'm very much about the branding, Kevin.
There you go. I wish I had something to show you.
but I totally get it. And one of the massive frustrations I hear from other people is when people are criticizing a product, very often they're coming at it from a they don't understand what the problem was. They've done something wrong, and there's either a refusal to admit that they didn't read something properly and had, for what they were going to do, they had most of the air, all the air in the top chamber, and that didn't suit the riding they would do. So of course it felt inappropriate. Or
Right.
And I think people without the language or the vocabulary to express, just are like bloody apes hammering down on a keypad that says this product's rubbish, and they don't go any further than that. And a sort of refusal to accept that somehow they may have been culpable in someone. And if someone then explained to them, "Oh, you should have balanced it out or had more air in the bottom chamber for the style of riding you're doing," people then don't tend to go online and say, "Hey, do you know what? I was completely wrong."
Right.
You know,
Well,
turns out I did it wrong. You know, it doesn't happen.
You know, it's interesting, and I'm really fortunate with Russ because
So Russ is your business partner.
he's based in New Jersey, and so for example, let's say you as a customer, you have an issue with the fork. You can call him; he will pick up the phone. You're speaking directly to an owner of the company.
Yeah.
He understands the fork inside and out. He can talk to you without even setting up a Skype call, which he's more than willing to do, to train you on how to service the fork. We have videos up on the website. I don't know of another company where you can call up, speak to the owner. We're small, and to have that relationship, and so, you know, I'm in a really good place. I'm working with friends, as I wish COVID had not happened, because you know, one of the ideas in setting up the business was I could travel the world with my best friend, and we could go visit you in the UK, or we have a distributor over there, Fat Bike Adventures in Ireland. Never been to Ireland. My mother bled in green. She wanted to go to Ireland so bad.
Pop on over. I'll meet you there. I've never been. I've only ever been to Northern Ireland, so we'll go ride there.
Well, exactly, and so to be able to do that, to go hit a distributor in Switzerland and Norway, and we just talked to a company yesterday in Finland, and you can connect with people very quickly. You can tell who are honest, sincere business people. And, I'm not doing business in Finland. So if we can create a relationship where we both have the best interest for you to own the brand, you are the representative of Wren Sports in Finland. Those are the kind of partnerships that we look for. I'm not interested in working with a distributor. I have a friend, he's the biggest mega distributor in Europe called Messenschlager. And he sells to other distributors. That's how big he is.
Okay.
I have no interest in selling to a guy like that. I want to have the control. I want to know that, if your customer has a problem and you can't solve it, we will, and you can pick up the phone and say, "Kevin, I'm at the point I don't know what to do. We will take care of you." So,
So what's the dream then? This sort of naturally leads on to, I think you sort of say you've got a pretty clear image in your mind of what you don't want your company to be. So what would be, And I guess you have, please take this in the best possible way, the benefits of age and wisdom to know you're not just, when you're in your 20s or whatever, you sort of realize, I went self-employed. I hated working for a big company. I went self-employed in 2004. And never look back. I'm just completely unemployable now because I've been working for myself for so long. And like you, I got fed up with people who didn't care. I've sacked clients, which is insane for a small one-man band or whatever, because I didn't like working with them. And people thought I was mad, but my life was so much better working with people I enjoyed working and representing brands I was kind of proud to represent, etc. So what is your next 5 years? I mean, what's your goal? Is it a focus on the forks? Because you do handlebars, you do mountain bike forks as well as the fat bike forks. But is it fair to say your fat bike forks is more where
that is the core of our business?
Core, yeah.
And if you look at the fork, our platform is such that it's a modular fork. In other words, we do 4 models. We do a 100 hub spacing, a 110 boost hub. We do a 135 fat and a 150 fat.
Yeah.
So we invested in 4 molds for those crowns. We have 1 set of dropouts. The dropouts are the same, whether it's 100, 110, 150. We can cut our tubes. We offer 2 lengths, a 110 travel and a 150 travel. Both of those forks have an additional 10 millimeter travel, but it is not a travel in terms of performance. It's to save the fork. It's a compression piece. So we're cutting tubes. All of our internals are the same except for the spring. We have a 110 spring. We have a 150 spring. So if you're a dealer for a Wren product, your bushings are the same. Your oil damper is the same. The keys are the same. We try and make it as simple as possible. People say, what are you coming out with next year? Next year is an unusual year for us. We just did a new carbon gravel fork. It's a full monocoque carbon fork. This thing is tested like you cannot believe. It carries 5 kilograms on each leg, and we went over 100,000 cycles. There isn't a fork like it in the marketplace. It has huge gravel clearance. And we get that from, we have a new partner who is based in Alaska, and he is a real world user of, his wife just did a 900-mile unsupported gravel ride. And that's how they tested the fork. And
it must have been one hell of a row they had before she went off.
They're crazy. I mean, I can't even comprehend that, So you're taking everything, you're sleeping, you're eating, water, and it's an amazing accomplishment, something I could never do. And so when he comes back and says, this is okay, but it could be better if we did this, you listen. And so we created this monocoque rigid carbon fork. We call it the beefcake. And the reception to it has been really, really good. We are coming out with 2 new handlebars. We're doing an aluminum version and a steel version of a adventure bar with a loop in the front, a little more aggressive than the Jones bar. And we just introduced that at Sea Otter and got some pretty good response to that. So first of all, I look to work with my partners, people who are really good friends, factory owners throughout Taiwan in every category of product. And so I mentioned we're working on a new rear hub. It will have the star ratchet mechanism, but we're making improvements. We are focusing on extreme cold weather performance. We are offering a steel cassette body for the e-bike market, where when you look at where their issues are on a rear hub, it's the torque of the motor driving the cassette into an aluminum body. So we're offering 2 sets, one for the aftermarket consumer and the steel version for the OEM guys. And the OEM guys will drive our volume, and they will give us the opportunity to offer an extremely competitive, high-end performance for a hub that has the proper bearings to perform in those weather, that have the shields, right? And you're going to spend a little extra for those things. But again, we're targeting a niche market. you ask where we're going with the business. I'm very, very fortunate to work with some great people, and I would love to continue to do that. I would love to work with other friends in Asia that own factories that have been saying to me, "Come on, Kevin, I want to make a light for you." I mean, what am I going to do in a lighting category that differentiates me?
Yeah.
And if I did something, who's going to outdate my product in 6 months with some new invention in the category of batteries, lights? But we were exploring it, and we were exploring it again from the extreme cold weather performance aspect. We're not there, but when we do get it, you will see us introduce a light. If I can put out a good or better product, look at our stem. I mean, we offer that stem for $89.
Yeah.
Free shipping anywhere in the world. So if I get an order from the Czech Republic, it costs me $25 to ship that stem.
Yeah.
I don't make a lot of money, but I get a quality product in somebody's hand, and when they hold that stem, they go, "My God, this thing is so light." It's all about value for me, and so if I can put out a value light that targets again in a category like extreme performance,
Yeah.
or bike packing adventure, where a guy's going to go out for 30 days, how's he going to recharge that, right? All of those things are what we look at in terms of a new product. Then you go to the factories who are friends who manufacture those types of products, and you say, "I need a new lens." Okay, Kevin, that's going to cost you $10,000. Okay, we want this kind of a shape. The mold's going to cost you $3,000.
Yeah.
And that's how you can then begin to see, all right, my cost is this. What are the retail price points? What is the value of my light? And I know that we can be extremely competitive. With our fork, we sell that for $6.99 with free shipping anywhere in the world. Again, if you're in Bulgaria and you order the fork, we put a DHL label on it right at the factory, and we ship that to the consumer. It all boils down to relationships. And I learned that from Yoshi. I stood in a trade show booth and watched that man where hundreds of people would walk through over 4 days. And he would remember your name. He would remember your wife's name. And I would say to him, "How do you do that?" And he goes, "Kevin, that's the most important thing," he says, "is building relationships with people." And he's right. And that's what I tried to do throughout all of my sourcing. And so people know me as who I am. And I am an open, honest guy. The experience that I've had in my life, good and bad, I have no problem sharing that with people, because maybe they can benefit to understand that somebody else went through some bullshit that, and then look at me now. And how did I get here? It was through the help of friends that, when I was between, do I ask them for a job? Do I want to move to Asia and be their liaison every time somebody comes in from Europe? Or, I was single. I have no kids, never had any kids. And so I could do what I want. And they were the ones that said to me, "Start a business. We will support you." And we have never taken an additional dime of income from anybody. We do not owe a debt to anybody. And we're in an excellent position to be able to take an idea from somebody in the marketplace, use product, and say, "I will work with you. I will license your idea. I can get it made. I can pay the tooling. I can pay the minimum order quantities to get those first production batches in here." And you would be, I don't know, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, the number of people who really have a passion, who, when they come home from work, instead of putting on the TV, they go out into the shed and they're working on how to make their thing better. And I love people like that. And so I want to work with small companies. The Handmade Builders Show here in the US, which we've lost in the last COVID period, is an excellent, excellent value for me. I can go there in a small 10 by 10 tent, and the people that are there are genuinely interested in knowing, why is your fork How are your stems so light? This is ridiculous. and you can have a one-on-one where that's where I do well, right? I sell myself before I sell my product. And, my partner Russ is the same. At Sea Otter last week, he did demonstrations and he took the fork apart, put it back together. And he was able to do that where people could stop him, ask questions. And you don't get that from other companies. And, we will continue to do that. We're at a very critical point. Do I want to bring on more investors? The money would be good. The money would allow me to hire more people and to invest in products. But you have oversight where when we decided to create the beefcake fork, we took the information from the people in the marketplace.
Is there a scratching noise?
Yes, that's a bird.
Is it?
That's a bird.
I was trying to work out what bird
what the hell is it? It's not my dog. My dog has finally calmed down. He's wrapped himself around a chair. He's nowhere to move.
I thought someone was raking leaves or something. I couldn't work out what it.
No, that's a bird in a tree. See, living in paradise, you get that. I promise I won't pick an orange or a grapefruit.
Chuck a mango at it.
So lucky to live here. It's a multicultural place, and to have that exposure to all kinds of people, I love that. And of course, I love the weather. It's a fabulous place to live, and I can be up in the Tahoe in 40 minutes.
Kevin, I'm so grateful to have this chat with you. I'm so pleased. It's fascinating. So, I mean, obviously, when you were studying hard in the seminary to
take the collection basket, Adam.
I presume you asked for some divine intervention to talk to some random bloke in the UK just a few decades later.
I did. I still have my connections.
I'll bear that in mind, Kevin.
What it was? I like the hats. I wanted the big white hat.
It wasn't just the free wine on a Sunday.
No. And when you're in the seminary and you realize, geez, most of these guys, they just weren't sales guys. And so I could be a bishop or I could be a cardinal.
You're still selling the dream. It's just a different one.
I was driven back then, I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. I absolutely loved your first review on Smurfette. And
what's not to love? I mean, the bike and the fork. I'm kind of. Do you know what? I'm kind of excited because you guys have. I see the videos of them going over boulders and going through the snow, and we don't have the same extremes here. Well, we have damp and very damp, but I'm doing more and more exploring with different terrains, and I'm kind of really looking forward. It sounds silly, well, it probably sounds great to you. I'm really looking forward to exploring what the fork can do, what the bike can do. I'm an absolute convert to the fat bike. I went to a race last weekend and I was the only guy on the fat bike and I did terribly, but all these pro riders were coming over in the car park. You know what mountain bikers are like. It's great. It's awesome. Everyone having a chat and they come over and say, "What the hell is that?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, you've not seen this before." And they all had a ride around the car park or the field and they couldn't stop grinning. And they were all asking about the fork. They were all asking about the fat bike. And it's just, I think the fat bike takes you back to why you rode a bike as a kid. It's just fun.
It is. It really is.
It is capable and it is, it ticks lots of boxes, but it's just fun. And I'm so looking forward to exploring on the fork. But guys, that is it. I've taken way too much of Kevin's time. He has made it very clear that with my technical questions, my next video is going to be setting up the fork. That I'm not to call him, I'm to call Russ. So
I would do that. Yeah, I would do that. And at some point down the road, if you want to do an actual service on your fork, you can put it in a stand, and Russ will say to you, "Okay, open this up. Now you see that, remove that." And it's an educational process for your followers, for just how simple something can be. It is the most simple fork in the world to work on, and we would love to share that with your audience.
My first video I watched with the Wren fork, the first one that popped up was you, I think, in a car park in Taiwan. It looked like you were outside a factory in Taiwan explaining how to do the. You had a very neatly ironed polo shirt. It was very professional. It was.
Yes, as you can see, I won't show you my sweatpants. I'm sitting.
It's a mature audience I've got. It's all good, but it's Kevin. Thank you so much, buddy. I'm going to end the recording.
My pleasure.
And do you know what? If you don't mind, I'd love to keep in touch.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
And in a few minutes, I'm going to send you a follow-up email saying, can I be your distributor in the UK? But we'll have a different conversation then. Everybody, thank you. It's Kevin from Wren.
Thank you, Richard. We'll talk soon.